Here we are at the Court of the EDI Jester once more for your sins. Hello and welcome everybody. How are you? It's cold. As the awful festive season barrels down on us like an unwelcome aunt, okay? I'm desperately trying to find reasons not to engage with people for the next 3 weeks, right? I hate it. I hate it with a passion. Don't mind the food, mind. But I hate it with the passion, right? Can't bugger off. Go away! So I'm going to be doing my own thing, I think, this Christmas. We'll see. So, it's the 11th today, so I've got something like that, the 12th. I've got a nice thing from James Esses. Our James. How you doing, our James, out there? James Esses. Yep. So what we've got is a nice little historical number that he's written on the 8th, right? And I think it's worth you reading because it's really, and particularly warrior teachers, it's very good reading this in terms of understanding some historical stuff around the Stonewall rubbish, right? Okay, so here we go. On the 24th of April 2014, Sam Dick, Director of Campaigns at Stonewall. That's just so good. I used to have a biology teacher called Plant, Mr. Plant. And they've got Sam Dick as Director of Campaigns at Stonewall. He wrote a piece for The Guardian reflecting on the charity's work since it was founded 25 years prior. He walked through the core campaigns of the organisation over the years. Primarily, these had focused on repealing Section 28 of the Local Government Act of 1988, which had prohibited the promotion of homosexuality. However, Stonewall had also ploughed campaign resources into repealing the ban on serving in the military, workplace protections to discrimination in the provision of goods and services, adoption by same-sex couples, legal recognition of same-sex relationships, and an equal age of consent. Good times those, weren't they? When all we wanted was to be recognised that we're just human. That was what it's about. All of this was done, according to Dick, in the unwavering pursuit of lesbian, gay, and bisexual equality. And congratulations to Stonewall up to that point, because they did it. They had help. You know, people were funding them and there was other work being done elsewhere, but they had help, you know. And then he says, James, this is great. Notice anything missing? When I first read this article and saw the acronym LGB, my brain subconsciously added a letter to the end of it. If you were presented with a drinks menu in a bar and saw the acronym G and, I can hazard a guess as to which letter your brain would automatically add to the end. Or imagine you enter a sandwich restaurant and are presented with a menu offering a BL asterisk. Again, without even meaning to, your brain will likely add a particular letter to the end. It's the alliteration that does that. LGBT. It's got the sing-song nature of it. This is a sign of familiarity. More than this, it is a sign of conditioning. It is unsurprisingly how easily LGBT rolls off the tongue, given the way in which we have been bombarded with this phrase day in and day out over recent years. Yet, less than 10 years ago, this term was completely alien to the UK. There was no such thing as LGBT. It was LGB, and Stonewall, the largest charity of its kind in Europe, was striving solely for LGBT equality. In Dick's Guardian article, there was not a single mention of the T. These days, you would be hard-pressed to find a Stonewall campaign tool not focused squarely on it. Why is this? By 2014, Stonewall had essentially served its purpose. It had thankfully secured its goals. Sam Dick, in the aforementioned article, specifically stated, "Today we stand in an almost uniquely privileged position of saying that each of these early legal challenges has now been secured." Their job was done. He goes even further. "It still takes my breath away when speaking to human rights defenders around the world, fighting for similar freedoms in their own countries, how far we've come." This level of praise for the United Kingdom may come as a surprise to many. These days, Stonewall is known for essentially arguing that rights in the UK have never been worse. In fact, as we can see, even a decade ago, things had never been better. However, in light of these achievements, questions were being asked as to whether Stonewall had run its course. As Dick wrote, the question that is posed to us frequently since equal marriage secured is, what next? So after equal marriage, what next? The only thing he could suggest was to remain ever vigilant of attempts to roll back progress we've made. Hardly a roaring call to arms from a charity centred around proactive campaigning and advocacy. It is clear, even from this article alone, that Stonewall were considering their relevance in modern society. They needed something to attach themselves to, a cause, an ideology, an opportunity. In July 2014, Ruth Hunt was appointed as the new CEO of Stonewall. In an interview with The Guardian on the 28th of July, Hunt stated that the biggest challenge facing Stonewall was creeping complacency. She went on to say, "Some people think because we have achieved significant legislative goals, the job is done." And then it came. Hunt made the announcement that she would be opening conversation with the trans community at a meeting at the end of August. This was significant. Stonewall, by its own admission, had never previously campaigned for transgender issues. In fact, Stonewall had stated that they were firm about not campaigning for trans equality. This was unsurprising, given the threats posed to the LGBT community from gender ideology, something which will be considered later in this book. This is an excerpt from his book. However, here we had an organisation that many considered had fulfilled its purpose, and a newly appointed CEO keen to cement her own relevance. As the old saying goes, any port in a storm. Little did we know that this single decision would set off a chain of events, drastically changing society in the UK beyond anyone's wildest nightmares or dreams, depending on the viewpoint. On the 30th of August 2014, Hunt set up a meeting with trans professionals, campaigners and activists to discuss the possibility of Stonewall becoming trans inclusive. This was followed by a 6-month consultation with over 700 organisations and individuals. On the 16th of February 2015, Stonewall made an official announcement that they would start campaigning for trans equality. The same day they put out a tweet with a rebrand version of their historical slogan. It read, "Some people are trans, get over it." The Guardian reported, Britain's biggest campaigner for lesbian and gay rights, Stonewall, has announced it will also start working for trans equality, describing the move as a significant moment and apologising for its past failures to do so. We know now that that was when the rot set in, really, when we did that. But we also know from history, if you look back at the history of the Beaumont Society or the cross-dressers, that they were explicitly anti-LGB. It was a very heterosexual pursuit. You know, it was mostly straight men LARPing as women. You've seen that video I put out, Papa's Ugly, you know, I'm a lesbian, you know, I think you're a lesbian too. So we now know that that was when the danger started, and James points that out quite well. There's a lot more to the article there, which is in essence an excerpt from an upcoming book. So I do suggest that you go and read it, because it's an interesting historical text. Where we're going to go next with this, I don't know. I mean, I think that the elimination of Stonewall from the public sphere, the elimination of Mermaids, the Proud Trust, all these so-called charities that are pushing this anti-reality, hard left, Marxist / communist / Maoist, whatever you want to call it, manifestation of a grievance and victimhood, which is the most dangerous part, because there's a subclinical psychopathy that comes with that. I think that we need to make sure that as a society we eradicate these people. And the easiest way to eradicate these people from our public square is just don't support them, and then they'll disappear. But I'm glad to hear what you think we should do, because if it was me, if I was in charge, there'd be trouble. There'd be legislation and they'd be gone. They would really. And I'd get McCarthy on their ass. Right? We're now, have you ever been a member of Stonewall? Take him down. Thankfully, cooler heads will prevail. But from my perspective, change in language, we need to still take the language back. That's the first thing. You can't run with the hare and the hounds, take the language back. Let me know what you think in the blueberries. Come and be a word teacher. I'll see you later.